Hey guys, and thanks for tuning in. My name is SPYN, and now the time has come for the last part of my suggestions for the substitution system. More specifically, I will suggest features and conditions that both the substitution bar and the chakra bar will be able to benefit from. Alright, let's start. Suggestion number 7. I suggest that we incorporate damage immunity after use substitutions again. It basically means that players will become immune to any kind of damage for a very short amount of time. This feature was originally found in Storm 2, and it is still an appropriate feature to use, because this particular suggestion helps to prevent uncontrolled wasting of substitutions. This is where I'm talking about when players uncontrollably waste several substitutions in a row, despite pressing the substitution button only once. This is an issue that has to be looked out for, as it interferes with how players can play. But in short terms, this suggestion will eliminate any kind of uncontrolled subs and thus give players the rightful conditions when fighting. Suggestion number 8. I suggest that we modify the conditions to be more precise for where we are able to choose to spawn after having used a substitution. CyberConnect 2 incorporated my previous suggestion for being able to choose where you spawn, but they didn't quite enable players to get far away enough to dodge overpowering attacks in Storm 3. However, the control settings for how it should work is quite simple. Therefore, I first want to suggest that we keep the same control settings from Storm 3. In this way, you are able to substitute in different directions by pointing your movement analog while using the substitution technique. Secondly, I want to suggest that we increase the spawning distance so that players won't fall directly into the arms of any opponent constantly. For instance, certain big awakenings have a tendency to catch players far too easily, where the current direction substitution isn't working well. 90% of the time you end up in the arms of your opponent yet again. So by increasing the spawn distance, we will definitely not be forced to fall into the same attacks again, thus giving us better chances of getting a bit away to counterattack. Next up, suggestion number 9. As an interesting feature, I want to suggest that players should be able to perform the substitution technique before any opponent tries to attack them. So basically, whenever you press your substitution button, you will use the technique and the opponent charges towards the substitution instead. In addition, it will be highly appropriate to combine this suggestion with suggestion number 8, the choice of respawning in whatever direction you desire. In basic terms, this feature will enable a new kind of diversity where players will have better defined options when it comes to fighting. It may be used to trigger different strategies or to avoid oncoming attacks before they even hit. Suggestion number 10. Let's create a cooldown system within the substitution system. Before we go into details, I want to state that this suggestion is most likely only suitable for regular chakra substitution, without exponential chakra cost for each substitution, because they cancel each other out in different ways, which makes the substitution system unbalanced. With that being said, having a 1 to 2 seconds cooldown on the substitution technique will create different conditions for how players should play and think in order to win. Okay, last suggestion for this video. Suggestion number 11. Let's enable some parts of every character's combos to be unsubstitutional. This suggestion will be elaborated later on in this series, but there's still something that can be said about it. You see, throughout the Storm games, most characters' combos have some parts in which the opponent cannot substitute from. I think that this aspect is very interesting because it renders the opponent unable to substitute if the player performs certain moves correctly. This will be another way of rewarding players when they combo when their opponents still have substitutions left. Then the game won't be bounded by the traditional who loses the subs first is the loser game, and thus create more gameplay diversity. Anyways, that concludes the last part of my suggestions for the substitution system. Please share your thoughts and opinions on this subject and tell me what you think about it, or if you could see things happening in other and perhaps more interesting ways. Remember, I'm considering all suggestions that you write to me for my Storm 4 Suggestions magazine project, so please keep the ideas coming. Alright, please give this a thumbs up if you like this video and subscribe to stay tuned for my upcoming videos. My name is SPYN, and as always, thanks for watching.